Welcome to Revenge Report. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more. Let's dive in. I heard Dana's voice before I saw her. Sharp, loud, confident. The kind of voice that fills a room full of suits and command-grade egos. Guess we all take different career paths, she said, fake laughing as she pointed at me from across the conference table. Some of us build drones, some mop up after them. A few heads turned toward me. Some smirked. No one said a damn word to defend me. My name's Erica Nash. I'm 52. Used to be a senior intelligence operator for a federal counterterrorism task force, the kind of job where one wrong call meant body bags. I led kill squads in Kandahar, shut down sleeper cells in Virginia, and helped write protocols still used in satellite defense AI. 3 years ago, I vanished. Not from enemies, from my own people. These days, I clean security consoles and audit sensor logs at a classified drone R&D facility outside Reno, Nevada. Technically, I'm listed as Support Tier Diagnostics. What that really means? I sit in a cold server room, running boot-level tests on machines I once helped design. Quick note: before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. Dana, she's my older sister, also happens to be a vice president at Syndril Core Defense, the private firm contracted to supply hardware for our newest prototype, the Raven 91. She walks around like she owns the place, even though half her people can't tell the difference between a cooling loop and a logic relay. That morning, we were in the Central Command briefing for the Raven's upcoming overseas live test. I wasn't invited, obviously, but I had clearance to monitor the secondary sensor logs, so I stayed quiet and did my job. She knew I was in the room. That jab was for me. I didn't flinch. I kept my eyes on the console, watching the drone's baseline energy feeds scroll past on the screen. I noticed a slight uptick in power draw on one of the tertiary rotors. Nothing major, but worth a notation. While the rest of the room chuckled at Dana's joke, I logged the anomaly and moved on. She kept going. You know, Erica used to be Reaper 1. Remember that? And now she's... What's the title again? She turned toward me like I was an intern. Diagnostics Compliance, I said flatly. I don't mop. The room went dead quiet. Dana smirked, then turned back to the projector like I didn't exist. I locked eyes with the drone's system map. I knew every line of its architecture, every patch, every workaround, every blind spot, and I could already tell something wasn't right. By the time the rest of the crew cleared out, it was past 2200. The overheads dimmed to maintenance lighting, that pale yellow wash that makes everything look half dead. I stayed behind in the diagnostics bay, running a level 3 sweep on the Raven's subsystems, like I did every night. Not glamorous, but routine kept my hands steady. Halfway through the run, something jumped on the monitor, a tiny fluctuation in the backup reactor's thermal feed. Less than 0.5 degrees, but it spiked erratically and then leveled out. 1 second it was there, then gone. I flagged it. Protocol didn't care how small it was. If it appeared, you reported. That's what I did. Logged it, annotated it, dropped a note to the system log for review. Still here, Nash, a voice called from behind. It was Cody Bramley, 23, fresh out of some fast-track tech rotation in Colorado Springs. Cocky, like all of them. Thermal bounce in reactor reserve, I said without looking up. 0.47, stabilized after 12 seconds. Cody leaned over my chair with a half-eaten protein bar in hand. That's within tolerance. The AI would have flagged it if it mattered. That's not how we do this, I said. We verify. He rolled his eyes and tossed the wrapper into the bin. It's an overbuilt sandbox, Erica. The Raven could lose half its coils and still pass simulation. I didn't bother answering. I ran the sequence again, line by line. Same flicker, same correction. Too fast for a core error. Too smooth for a simple fluctuation. Then I saw it, buried in the diagnostic subline, a micro stutter in the coolant loop response. That wasn't just a software hiccup, that was hardware. I zoomed in, pulled the assembly tag off the feed. 3 digits locked into view. 2XC-79-4. That code wasn't standard issue. I froze. That was Syndril Core Defense Inventory, Dana's company, her division specifically, Tactical Thermal Integration Units. I remembered those tags because I helped prototype them 8 years ago, back when I still trusted her. Go home, Bramley, I said, standing up. Whatever, he muttered. Don't blame me when your career gets downgraded to broom duty. I waited for the door to shut behind him before I moved. Back at my console, I tapped into the internal hardware registry. If Dana's hardware got installed, there had to be a maintenance log, something filed during the Raven's last retrofit. Except, there wasn't. The last logged update was 6 months ago, weeks before the system swap. That didn't make sense. Everything in this place ran on clearance-level traceability. You couldn't even tighten a bolt without a record. I accessed the sandbox archive, old test logs, system snapshots, metadata trails from the install cluster. Most of it was clean, until I found the ghost entry. A time-stamped record with no user ID, no clearance signature, just a batch install path and a forced overwrite flag on subsystem 47B, the exact slot where the fluctuation occurred. I expanded the payload metadata, encrypted, but not fully. Someone got lazy. The checksum didn't match base protocol. It matched the pattern from a failure 3 years ago. Same module, same thermal instability, same unexplained override. That incident? It grounded a drone in the field and nearly fried the reactor core mid-flight. I took the fall for it. The report claimed it was my oversight. Negligent authorization. No backup logs, no traceable install path. No confirmation signature, just like this. I stared at the screen, fists clenched. This wasn't a mistake. It was the same damn setup. I knew that checksum. I chased it once already, back when it nearly cooked a live test drone over Turkish airspace and almost triggered an international incident. That was 3 years ago, when I still had rank and a say in the chain of command. Back then, Dana's company was pushing to install a new thermal core system across the fleet. It was faster, lighter, supposedly smarter, but the data didn't line up. I'd run my own field simulations, flagged instabilities under pressure load, and submitted a report through internal Intelnet, tagged with my name, credentials, and priority level risk. 2 days later, the committee voted to move forward with the Syndrol upgrade. I didn't understand it, so I checked the record. My name wasn't there. The warning had been stripped, redacted like it never existed. When I pushed, my own superiors pulled me into a closed-door meeting. No files, no transcripts. One of them, a director I'd worked under for 11 years, looked me in the eye and said, "You authorized a faulty integration. There are no logs to support your claim." I said that was impossible. He said my options were limited. Resign quietly, he told me, or face formal inquiry for negligent authorization. They knew I wouldn't drag my name through public inquiry. I'd trained half the people who'd be called to testify. So I walked. They sealed the record, stamped me consultant for optics, and erased Reaper 1 like she'd never existed. I got one text from Dana the night it went through. "This is for the best." I didn't answer. I spent months trying to find the gap. No trails, no logs, nothing I could hold up without getting blacklisted harder. Until one night, I was cleaning out a secured backup vault on an old Air Force drive. Standard purge request. Boring stuff. That's when I saw it. An early test file tagged with the Raven prototype prefix and Dana's division code. But it wasn't her name on the upload. It was Riley Marcus. That name hit hard. Riley was an intern back then. Bright, eager, always hungry to prove herself. I'd mentored her personally, showed her how to cross-check cooling units against fuel loop behavior. She used to call me ma'am, even after I told her not to. I opened the file. It was a module installation test with a forged signature block, a clone of mine, but sloppy. Time-stamped 2 hours after I'd already signed out of the lab that day. They'd used her credentials to stage the test, then pinned the final integration on me. Dana's division got the contract. I got erased. It all made sense. They needed someone clean, someone with enough access to make it plausible, someone too by the book to fight dirty. And when it all fell apart, I was perfect. Too silent, too easy to blame. 2 days later, I was quietly reassigned. No memo, no announcement, just a badge scan that routed me to support command for the Raven's first full-range flight test. Remote strip, outside Fallon, Nevada. 80 bodies on site, ops crew, diagnostics techs, flight security, plus 3 brass-tier observers from Washington. Among them, Dana, of course, and a 3-star DHS general with clearance high enough to rewrite my entire file if he blinked wrong. I didn't ask questions. I packed my tablet, my clearance codes, and kept my mouth shut. They stuck me in Module 4, support-grade command trailer, far edge of the airstrip. No comms authority, no line to deck control. I wasn't meant to say or do anything, just monitor telemetry, exactly how they wanted it. The Raven was already on the tarmac when I arrived. Black, sleek, dead silent. A crew tightened the last clamps on the rear wing stabilizers, while the launch techs called out system reads. I knew every inch of that drone. I'd written half its software and designed the backup power logic myself before I was scrubbed. Nash, you're on cooling and reactor, the test lead said, barely glancing at me. Anything spikes, log it. Don't speak unless someone speaks to you. I nodded and plugged in. Launch countdown hit 0 at 0740. The Raven lifted smooth and sharp, cut the air like it was born to. Altitude locked at 10,000 feet, flight patterns solid. Telemetry was clean. Everyone in command looked relaxed, even Dana. She leaned back next to the general like she was already planning her press quote. 12 minutes in, I caught it. Thermal balance in the secondary reactor loop dipped, then snapped high. 2 full degrees up in under 6 seconds. That wasn't environmental. That was internal. Then the glitch hit. Cooling core started compensating for non-existent pressure. Battery routing flickered. AI rerouted current to redundant avionics. Systems that didn't need power. I hit communications. Control, this is Module 4. I'm seeing thermal instability in secondary reactor loop. Confirming subsystem drift. A beat. Then the operator's voice. Systems stable. Focus on your screen, Nash. I stood. You need to initiate step down on secondary before it. Stay in your lane. They cut my feed to voice only. The AI was slipping. I watched as it began to prioritize power to the rear rudder bank. Not flight critical. It was ignoring the reactor warning, trying to self-correct something it wasn't built to handle. I checked my console. Override locked. I didn't have command access, but I had something else. I ran a trace down to the original architecture, the analog override I'd built into the prototype before Syndrel rewired everything. It wasn't on any schematic. I'd built it as a failsafe in case the AI got too smart. It was buried deep behind 4 access shells and a legacy authentication string that hadn't been used since I was still Reaper 1. I entered the sequence by muscle memory. Access. Granted. Manual control lit green. The drone was glitching in real time now. Oscillating, bucking power from flight to diagnostics. I didn't wait. I triggered the console relay. The drone jolted hard left on the map. An erratic shift, not programmed. Altitude dropped by 30 feet in 2 seconds. Then another 50. A tech at the main terminal called out, "Flight patterns off! We've got lateral drift, north by northwest." "That's civilian range," another shouted. Alarms lit up across the deck. I was still in the side trailer, live feed in front of me, watching it fall. Heat across the reactor loop was now in the red. The AI had no idea what it was doing, compensating for stabilizer drift instead of fixing the core issue. If it didn't shut down the second backup pump, it'd surge power to the frame and drop out of the sky. Through the open comms channel, someone yelled, "Get Reaper back on deck!" That name hadn't touched the air in 3 years. Not since the day I was erased. There was a moment of dead silence in the control trailer, like no one could believe it had been said out loud. Then Dana's voice, low and sharp. "Who the hell called her that?" "I did," the DHS general said. "She's the only one who can fly it manually." I didn't wait to be summoned. I stepped into the main control trailer. 30-plus operators, tech leads, brass, and security personnel all turned. I didn't care. I moved straight to the deck. People parted like water. Dana stared at me, her mouth tight. She didn't speak. The operator at the main controls tried to hold position, fingers dancing over the flight panel. "Systems locked into AI loop. I can't get a clean override." "Move," I said. He hesitated. I shoved his chair aside and dropped into the seat. The drone's vitals were a mess. Altitude falling, lateral drift increasing, and the AI still rerouting power like it was trying to solve a math problem instead of keep itself airborne. The UI was bloated with updates I didn't recognize. But buried under the garbage was the emergency control port I'd embedded years ago. I dropped to command line input. Typed in my legacy code. Nothing. The system kicked back a denial. I rerouted through the alternate bus relay, something I'd added on my own initiative, undocumented. A final failsafe. Ran the authentication again. Manual control lit green. Throttle response came back in real time. I felt it. Hands on the board, I brought the stabilizers up 2 degrees. Cut power to subsystem 4B. Reduced backup pump flow by half. "Altitude's leveling," someone said behind me, voice barely above a whisper. "Not enough," I muttered. "She's still listing." I tapped into the analog flight board, bypassed the AI node completely. and realigned pitch vectors using dead reckoning, old school flying, before the software thought it knew better. The drone groaned back into balance on the readout. Altitude stopped dropping, speed corrected, drift stabilized. I pushed her 3 degrees south to get her clear of the civilian perimeter. The trailer was silent except for the hum of machinery and the rhythmic beeping of pressure sensors coming back into the green. I stayed locked in. No reaction. No victory lap. I wasn't here for drama. I was here to bring her home. I dropped the nose 10 degrees and eased the Raven into its descent pattern. Landing gears deployed with a hard click, 2 seconds before wheels touched. She slammed down rough, harder than I liked. But the frame held. No smoke, no fire. No scattered wreckage across the desert. She was down, intact. Inside the trailer, the whole room exploded. Cheers, high fives, headsets tossed on tables, people shouting across channels to confirm status, except Dana. She stayed stone still by the front console, jaw locked. She grabbed the nearest operator. "Get all diagnostic logs downloaded now," she snapped. "I want full reports pulled before they're archived. All telemetry routed through Syndrel?" No one moved. She turned toward the techs again, barking sharper this time. "You heard me! Let's go!" Still nothing. Someone glanced at the general. He didn't say a word. I stood up from the console, slow and quiet, disconnected the relay plug from the analog board, left it right where it sat. I didn't look at Dana. I didn't need to. I stepped down off the deck. The air outside was dry and hot, wind kicking dirt across the pavement. Crew members were gathering near the drone, taking photos, documenting the landing, double-checking for damage. A few of them nodded at me, unsure if they were allowed to speak. The DHS general approached through the crowd, suit dusty, expression unreadable. He stopped in front of me, extended his hand. "The Reaper still flies," he said, loud enough for everyone around to hear. I shook his hand, one solid grip. That was enough. Dana finally stepped out of the trailer. She didn't look at me, just started pacing near the tech van, phone already in her hand, voice low and panicked. She was making calls, probably trying to control the narrative before it slipped from her hands. Too late. By the time I got back to the hangar that night, the after-action file had already hit the classified network. Not just the override sequence, but a full audit. Thermal imbalance, AI misfire, Dana's company tagged on the hardware install. Someone at the top had connected the dots fast. The file was marked for urgent review across Joint Intel, Homeland Security, and Air Force Systems Command. Then the press got wind of it. They ran it like wildfire. "Disgraced agent saves lives in midair disaster." That was the headline on 6 different outlets by morning. They used a stock photo from over a decade ago, the last time I'd worn the patch. Reaper 1 in Black Ops gear, walking off a tarmac in Qatar. The photo didn't match the woman I was now, but it didn't need to. People were reading my name again. And this time, it wasn't next to the word failure. By the end of the week, Dana was everywhere. News segments, defense panels, carefully lit interviews on sanitized sets where she sat in a navy blazer, trying to look authoritative but warm. She didn't mention me by name at first, just a former contractor with prior disciplinary concerns. Then she got bolder. She was never cleared to touch live systems, she told one outlet. There's evidence she may have tampered with logs after her exit. The incident's still under internal review. They played that line on repeat, but not everyone bought it. Internal auditors at Homeland started their own dig. Quiet, buried in technical memos and change logs, but real. They pulled retroactive access sheets and cross-checked them against command-level review panels. That's where it cracked. Syndrel Corps had been influencing internal oversight decisions for over 3 years. Stacked panels, rubber-stamped approvals, scrubbed reports. The same panels that voted to bury me. It didn't stay quiet for long. A federal oversight board dropped an inquiry notice. By Tuesday, I was summoned to Joint Intelligence Command. No lawyers, no press, no handlers, just me. I walked into a room with 4 people already seated. Military cuts, hard faces, high clearance, real weight. The man at the head of the table handed me a sealed folder. "Sit down, Nash." I opened the file. Top page. A forensic report detailing metadata discrepancies in the Raven's install logs. The next, a series of screenshots from a surveillance feed. One of them showed Dana in a conference room 2 years ago with a list of problem personnel on a screen. My name circled in red. There was more. A whistleblower statement from a junior admin at Syndrel's compliance division said she was instructed to delete internal alerts tied to my flagged report under direct order from Dana's chief of staff. Another file had a forged signature, mine, under a system change I never authorized. I looked up. My hands were steady. The general leaned forward. We believe you. We believe you were cut out, set up, and buried for the sake of a private contract, and we want your help in finishing this. I didn't ask what this was. I knew. I signed the statement. They didn't offer reinstatement. Didn't promise I'd get my badge or title back. But I didn't need that. What they gave me was better. A formal clearance to testify. Full transparency to internal records. A platform I wasn't supposed to have. Dana wanted me erased. Instead, I became the headline she couldn't dodge. 2 weeks later, Dana was under subpoena. The congressional session was closed door. Classified clearance, limited attendance. I wasn't allowed to speak, just observe from the upper gallery behind tinted glass, watching her take the oath with that same stiff jaw she wore when things didn't go her way. She was dressed like a survivor, understated gray suit, no makeup, hair pulled back like she hadn't slept. The illusion was clean, calculated, until they started pressing. The committee chair laid out the audit trail, falsified logs, redacted alerts, deleted diagnostics, internal communications with her senior staff about suppressing whistleblower reports. Dana tried to hold. I was misinformed. I trusted my team. We believed the risks were within limits. But the pressure didn't let up. They hit her with cross-signed statements, screenshots of Slack messages, financials showing contract bonuses tied to early system adoption, bonuses she'd approved. Someone slid a printed excerpt across the table, her signature, dated 2 days after I'd filed my report, on a document instructing the clearance panel to dismiss external warnings unless verified by executive compliance. That was it. She cracked. Tears didn't fall, but her voice buckled. I didn't know it would go that far, she said. I thought she'd push back. Erica always pushed back. I didn't think she'd walk away. One of the panel members asked flatly, "So you admit to suppressing her report?" Dana nodded once. Yes. Why? She blinked, swallowed. Because I knew they'd believe her. I always knew they'd believe her. That caught them. She kept going. She was always the better one. She was the one they respected, the one they listened to, and I couldn't afford to lose the deal. I'd spent 2 years getting that contract lined up. If they saw her name on that report, if they listened to her, they would have delayed the integration. She finally looked up toward the gallery, straight at me, eyes wide, face pale. They would have picked her again. No one said anything after that. It was done. The panel chair called for recess. I left before she did. She caught up with me outside the chamber, alone, without the entourage this time. She stepped into my path, didn't bother with excuses. Do you hate me? Her voice was quiet, honest for once. I looked her in the eye. No, I said, but I won't forget. She looked like she wanted to say more, but the words didn't come. I gave her one final line. You didn't destroy me, you just delayed the ending. Then I walked past her. I didn't turn back. The envelope was plain, government grade, marked with a raised seal and security stripe. I opened it at my kitchen counter with a dull knife and zero expectations. I figured it'd be some formal notice about the case wrap-up, maybe a boilerplate apology that didn't use the word sorry. Instead, it was clearance reinstatement, not for field work, not for active ops, but an official placement as Senior Systems Analyst and Tactical Advisor for Drone Command Training Division. The last sentence hit harder than I expected. Your insight is no longer optional. It's required. I signed the acceptance form the same day. They flew me back out to Fallon, this time with an actual escort badge and someone waiting at the gate. My office was in a far wing of the command building, small, quiet, with a wide glass window that overlooked the eastern landing pad. No plaques, no medals. Just a desk, a system console, and a fresh start. I didn't decorate much. I didn't need to. Word got around faster than I expected. Young techs I didn't recognize would glance over their shoulders when I passed. Some whispered, a few saluted. I didn't correct them. One morning, maybe a week in, a young guy, barely 20, buzz cut, nervous eyes, stopped me outside the sim room, held out a folded patch with the unit's latest insignia stitched across the middle. You saved my cousin, he said. She was on ground support that day. Just wanted you to know. I took it. nodded once, kept walking. Later that afternoon, I hung two things on the wall of my office. The first, my old ops badge, scorched at the edge, blackened from the fire they thought had burned me down for good. Reaper, etched in silver under the flame damage. The second, a single still frame from the Raven's landing. Wheels hitting tarmac, dirt kicking up, tail rudders stabilized just inches from impact. No caption, no edit. Didn't need one. Anyone who came in would know what it meant. And for those who didn't, they didn't need to be in that room. The sun wasn't even fully up when I stepped onto the tarmac, clipboard in hand. The asphalt was still cold, the wind sharp enough to bite through my jacket. Nothing moved yet except the pre-check crews and a row of new cadets lined up by their sim units. Jules stood near the front, lean build, focused eyes, no nerves showing, but I could tell they were there. She held her helmet under one arm and didn't say a word unless asked. Reminded me of someone. I gave her a nod as I passed. She nodded back. The drone on her pad powered up. No stutters, no misfires. The system hummed to life, clean and steady, exactly like it was supposed to. One by one, the others lifted, but hers went first. Smooth, straight, no correction needed. Another instructor stepped beside me, arms folded, squinting into the morning haze. "She's a natural," he said. I didn't answer. Just watched the sky. The drone climbed higher, circling into formation. I tracked its movement without needing to look at the console. Then I heard it. Not in the air, not from the deck, but inside me. Software. Familiar. "Reaper, bring her home." I smiled. Not because I missed the seat, not because I wanted the badge back, but because I didn't have to fly anymore. Now I train the ones who would. The past, that's grounded. What I built, that still flies.